Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, April 16th. It's a beautiful day outside. So let's start with a word of prayer. Father in heaven, thank you for this day. Thank you for just the beauty of it. Father, we thank you for the fact that we can come to you and that you know the future and that you're not wringing your hands. Father, I pray that you would fill each one of these homes with peace. I pray peace for these students. I pray that you would increase their faith as they walk through these days. Father, we thank you for your word that tells us that you'll never leave us, that you'll take care of us, and we thank you for that. Father, I thank you for the opportunity just to get to continue teaching, even though I'm not physically with them, I still feel that bond with them, and I thank you for that. Father, I pray that you'd help us now as we go through this day, that you would help us to honor you in the things that we do and say. Help us to find ways to serve others, those that are in our homes, and if there's an opportunity, those who are our neighbors or our friends. I pray that you would continue to watch over us and provide safety for each one of our students and their families. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, this morning we're going to get started with lesson 25, vocabulary. We're working on the last 5 vocabulary words, numbers 6 through 10. So as always, I'm going to read the sentences with that definition in them, and I want you to see if you can come up with the correct answer since you've already copied those down for me. All right, so let's take a look at this one. The aroma of baking cookies began to spread throughout the entire house. Began to spread throughout the entire house. So that would be what? Pervade. It would be pervade. All right. The clever mother thought of an unusually new, uncommon, or original plan to get her finicky child to eat his vegetables. That would be a novel plan, that unusually new or uncommon or original. Okay, good. Here's another one. The music teacher was amazed that the one who is young or inexperienced could perform the difficult sonata with such precision and feeling. Okay, that one who is young or inexperienced would be a fledgling, right? And the next one, Celia expects everyone to cater to her every sudden or impulsive idea. Every sudden or impulsive idea would be a whim. A whim. Good. And the last one, being awakened suddenly from a sound sleep always puts Bill in a gloomily irritated mood. Gloomily irritated mood would be surly. I think some of us can relate to that. If we are awakened suddenly from a very sound sleep, we're not always in the best moods, are we? All right, well, those are your last 5 vocabulary words. And I really need you to be still studying those, learning those, first of all, just so that you can improve your vocabulary. But secondly, I want you to be prepared for when you do go back to school and when you get into 9th grade, I want you to know what these words mean so that when they're used in your spelling and in your writing, that you'll understand them. All right, let's take out your Of Places book. Today you're going to begin a story. It's kind of a long story, so we're going to split it up. It's split up into 2 days in the assignments. Those of you who like to read and get involved in a story, engrossed in a story, you might want to read the whole thing today, and then you'll have tomorrow's work done. But today we're going to start on page 348. We're going to start with The Golden Fleece, page 348, and you are going to read the first part of it. You're going to read page 348 to page 354, just through the first column. So when you get to page 354, I want you only to read this column, and then this column will start with tomorrow's work. And then we'll discuss that on Monday. when you look at the golden fleece, now we know that this whole unit is imaginary things. So the golden fleece is Nathaniel Hawthorne's retelling of a real classic Greek myth. And Hawthorne shows that while heroes of mythology exhibited courage in the midst of danger, they lacked wisdom and virtue. And so that kind of lets us know that they didn't come from the true and the living God, because he doesn't lack either one of those things. But this is interesting reading, and it's some that may be referred to in some of your later grades. So it'd be good for you to make sure that you do read the Golden Fleece. Half of it today, half of it tomorrow, or if you want to get ahead, you can read the whole thing today. All right, let's take a look now at page 245, the diagramming that you did yesterday. I apologize, but I cannot get the Zoom whiteboard to let my diagrams show correctly. So I did make a copy of these sheets and I put those on GroupMe. And so I have the answers, and I'm going to kind of just read them off and let you check. So why don't you get your papers out and let's see how you do. I really miss my Elmo, don't y'all? So let's look at this first one. People may doubt what you say, but they will always believe what you do. And that is so true, so true. So let's look at, where do you see in this sentence, where do you see any clauses? Well, the first one is what you say. That's the first clause. And then the second one is what you do. So if we put those in brackets, then we look at the first part of the sentence. People may doubt. So that's where you're gonna start your first line on your diagram. People is your subject, may doubt is your verb, and then we've got what you say. People may doubt what? That whole clause is the noun clause. It's used as a direct object. So you're going to put that up on, we called it our music stand right here. They called it stilts. Sometimes we refer to it as a pedestal. So you're going to put it up on the pedestal, and it's going to be you as your subject, say as your verb, and what is your direct object. So that's your first line. Then your second line, we have to look at what's left. We've got, but they will always believe what you do. And we know what you do is a clause. So we're going to diagram they will believe, and that they is your subject, will believe is your verb, always goes underneath. That's an adverb. So it goes underneath the will believe. And then your phrase, what you do, is another direct object. They're going to believe what you do. So you're going to put that up on the stilts, the pedestal, music stand, whatever you want to call that. We're going to put you do what. Now you have to put your conjunction but. You have to draw that dotted line down from may doubt, then you put a straight line and you put but on there, and then you draw another dotted line down to will believe. So kind of like right here. Well, I can't see backwards. Right there. Okay, so you're going to do what you will believe. Okay. All right, the next sentence. Do not squander time, for that is the stuff life is made of. All right, so let's look at the first one. Let's find the clause. The clause is, for that is the stuff. So we know we're going to diagram do not squander time first, because remember, we go in the order of the sentence. So do not squander time. What is the subject there? It's understood you. So you would put an X for the noun, or for the, in the place of the subject. X would stand for you. Then you'd put do squander what? Time. X, do squander time. And then under do squander, you're going to put not, because remember, not is never part of the verb. And then you've got, for that is this stuff. Okay, so you're going to diagram, we're going to leave out the for, we're going to diagram that is the stuff. So it's going to be that is stuff. That is going to be your noun, and then you're going to have is your verb, and stuff is your direct object. The goes under stuff. All right, and then that gives us the next, well, we have to put the for on there. So the for comes down from do, squander, dotted line, then straight line, and you put the for on it, and then dotted line down to is. We're going to do verb to verb. And then we're going to diagram the next part. Life is made of. Okay, so you're going to go down under that is stuff, and you're going to draw another line, and you're going to put life is made. And then this one is kind of tricky because it leaves out part of the direct object. So you got made of, and we would say that. Okay, life is made of that, and that is missing from the sentence. It's just understood. So on this one, underneath is made, we're going to draw the line like we do a prepositional phrase. We're going to put of on that line, and then X standing for that, which would be right there. Okay, and I know this is backwards, but I can't make it go correctly with this thing. So you would put of, and then your X would be standing for that. Okay, all right, let's look at number 2, or number 3, excuse me, that was number 2. Number 3, when you are right, be very right. When you are wrong, be very sorry. Ooh, maybe we should read that again. When you are right, be very right. And when you are wrong, be very sorry. Okay, so let's look at what our clauses are. The first one is when you are right. The second one is when you are wrong. So we know the rest of our sentence that we need to diagram is be very right, the first part. Be very right. So what's missing? Understood you. So you would put an X where the noun goes. Be would be your verb, slant your line because it's a linking verb, and then you're going to put right as your next word. All right, so now we've got, oh, and you want to put very under right because that's an adverb telling you to what extent are you going to be right. All right, look at the next one. When is going to connect it. So it's when you are right. So we're going to put you as the subject, are as the verb, right again comes after the verb, and you have that line slanted. Then you have when is going to go from be to are. Okay, that's your introductory word. Next, underneath it, we have to do the first part, or we have to do the part of the sentence that's not a clause. Be very sorry. So we would put X for you, understood you, in the subject place, be in the verb place, and then you're going to put your slanted line, and then you're going to say sorry because you're describing you. That's a predicate adjective there. Underneath sorry, to what extent? Very sorry. So you're going to put very under sorry. Then you're going to do the phrase when you are wrong, just like what you did at the top. You're going to put you are, slant your line, wrong. You're describing you again. And then you're going to put when is going to be, it's going to be on a dotted line from sorry to are. When are you sorry? Okay, and so that's the one that looks like this. Okay, all right, number 4, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. So we've got our clause is that which is good. Excuse me, I'm sorry, which is good. We've got which is good is our clause. All right, So the first thing we're going to do is the prove all things. And again, we're missing the subject is understood. So it's you, and for an understood you, we're going to put X for in the place of the subject. Then prove would be your verb. Prove what? Things. That's your direct object. What kind of things? All. So that goes under all. All right. Now we're going to do the next part. Hold fast that. So again, you have understood you as your subject. You hold that. How do you hold it? Fast. So fast goes underneath hold. And we have no coordinating conjunction, but you have that semicolon. So you still have to do the little dotted step from prove down to hold. The dotted line, then the straight line, then the line to hold. So it's going to go here from, excuse me, here from prove down to hold. And then we have our clause at the end, which is good. So which is going to be your subject, is your verb, and the slanted line again, because is a linking verb and you're describing it as good. So good is going to be after is. Now this one, you've got to have your dotted line from that down to which, because which is good is describing that. And so again, this is backwards, but maybe y'all can figure it out because you are very, very smart. Also remember, I did put this on GroupMe. I made a mistake and put Tuesdays up first last night. So this morning I went back and put Wednesdays up. So if you want to ask your parents if they can either send you that picture, or you can look at their GroupMe examples and you can check your work. All right, look at the last one, number 5. If we command our wealth, we shall be rich and free. If our wealth command us, we are poor indeed. All right, so you have 2 clauses again. The first one is if we command our wealth. And the second one is if our wealth command us. So we know that we're going to look at the rest of the sentence, not the clause first. So on the first part, it's we shall be rich and free. So that's pretty easy to diagram. We is your subject, shall be is your verb, slant your line. You've got a compound predicate adjective. Rich and free should be compound. And then you're going to do your clause, if we command our wealth. So you've got we command wealth. Whose wealth? Our wealth. So that goes underneath wealth. And then you've got your introductory word, if, goes from, on the dotted line, from shall be to command. So here's the first part of it. We shall be rich and free if we command wealth our. All right, and then we do the next one. Now we know, again, see that semicolon? There's no coordinating conjunction, but we still have to draw the line. We just don't put anything on it like we would put for the conjunction. We don't put anything on that straight part. All right, so we're going to look at this. We're not going to do the if our wealth commands us first. That's the clause. So we're going to do the rest of the sentence. We are poor indeed. So we is your subject, are is your verb, slant your line because you're describing we as poor. And then underneath poor, you're going to put indeed. Then now we need to go to the clause, if our wealth command us. So we've got wealth command us. Our goes under wealth, and the if is on a dotted line from the R above to command, just like this. We are poor if our wealth commands us an hour. Okay. All right. I hope that kind of helped you a little bit. Remember, when you're diagramming these compound complex sentences, you want to locate the clauses, and then you're going to do the sentence parts. You're going to do them in order. So the sentence part first, then the clause, another sentence part, then the clause. And that's those compound complex sentences that have at least two sentences with also the clauses. So let's take a look now at page 246. Your lesson plans say 244, but I did that with you yesterday. So we're going to flip over to page 246, and we're going to look at reviewing sentence structure. And remember, we did the formulas, and so that's kind of what we're doing today on this. So let's look at what it says, and I want you to get out your highlighter or your pen, because I want you to do, well, actually a pen or a pencil, I want you to do to the directions what we're supposed to do to the examples. All right, so let's look. Number one, box each comma and coordinating conjunction. So I want you to box the word comma and box coordinating conjunction and semicolon. So box each comma and coordinating conjunction or semicolon that joins independent clauses. That's the first thing we're going to do. Number two, underline every verb twice. So underline the word verb 2 times and every subject once. So underline subject 1 time. Number three, put brackets around each dependent clause. So put brackets around the words dependent clause. And in the blank, write the formula that indicates the kind of clauses in the sentence and the kind of sentence it is. Okay, so we're going to underline write formula, indicates kind of clauses, underline that, and kind of sentence. Use the following abbreviations: I for independent, D for dependent, S for simple, CD for compound, CX for complex, CD and CX for compound complex. All right, so let's go back and let's talk about the types of sentences just as a review. We know what a simple sentence is, just a plain sentence, no clauses, okay? We know what a compound sentence is. That's 2 sentences put together with either a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon and no conjunction. And sometimes they even have both. All right, we know, what else do we have? We know what a complex sentence is. That's at least 1 independent clause and at least 1 dependent clause. That's complex. Okay, so let's look at compound complex. Compound complex has at least 2 or more independent clauses and 1 or more dependent. So if it has 2 independents and 1 or more dependents, it's compound complex. Well, what's the difference between compound complex and a complex sentence? Well, a complex sentence contains 1 independent clause and 1 or more dependent. So if it has 2 independent clauses, it's not complex, it's compound complex. Okay, all right, and those definitions are back on pages 242 and 244 in case you get confused on this. All right, well, let's take a look at it. Look at the sample. Here's your sample. If music be the food of love, play on. All right, so the first thing it tells us to do is to box each comma and coordinating conjunction or semicolon. Comma and coordinating conjunction. Do you see a comma and a coordinating conjunction? No. Do you see a semicolon? No. All right, so we're not boxing anything. All right, now it tells us to underline the subjects once and the verb twice. So let's look. If music be the food, well, first of all, do you see a clause? Let's do it that way. Do you see a clause? I do. If music be the food of love, that's got the brackets around it. So inside that clause, we know there's going to be a subject and a verb. So what's the verb? Be. That's underlined twice. Music is the subject. It's underlined once. All right, look at the next part of the sentence. Play on. What's the verb? Play. Who plays? It's an understood you. So we would put on top, we would put the U, write it down, write it out, and then underline it once, okay? So that, all right, so let's look at that. We have one clause, dependent clause, so that would be the first part of the formula. If music be the food of love, that's dependent, so it would be D plus, well, the whole thing is a sentence. If music be the food of love, and then you've got play on, you play on. So you've got an independent clause there, you play on. So we got a dependent clause plus an independent clause, and we know if we have one of each, it's what? Complex. So that's what the CX stands for. All right, well, let's look at number one. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Okay, so let's look first. Do you see a comma and a coordinating conjunction? Yes, so we need to put that in a box. Box that comma and the word but. Okay, do you see any clauses? What we get is a clause, so put that in brackets. Do you see any more? What we give, so put that in brackets. All right, now let's go back and let's look at we make a living. We make a living by, okay? That's, we make a living by what we get. That's your sentence, okay? So where's your verb in the we make a living? Make. So underline that twice. And what about the subject? It's we, so underline that once. We make a living by what we get. What's the verb in that clause? Get. That should be underlined twice, and we should be underlined once, okay? So now we've got, we make a living by what we get, okay? That's an independent clause, so we would start with I, and then we've got what we get. That's a dependent clause. So we're going to put I plus D. Now let's look at the rest of the sentence. We make a life by what we give, okay? So we've got, we make a life. That's a sentence, isn't it? So is we make a life by what we get. So we're going to, that's going to be another I plus D plus I. Do you see that next clause, what we give? That's a dependent clause. So it's going to be I plus D plus I plus D. So if you have two independent clauses and two dependent clauses, what kind of sentence is that? Compound complex. Good. All right, so let's now go back and underline the subjects and verbs. We make a life. Where's your verb? Make. And your subject, we. And then what we give. Your verb is give and your subject is we. Okay, so that should be give underline twice, we underline once, make underline twice, we underline once. That's a lot of stuff to do, isn't it? Okay, now let's do the next sentence together, and then I'm going to let you do the rest on your own. All right, everything is funny as long as it's happening to somebody else. Do you see a clause there? As long as it's happening to somebody else. Put that in brackets. There is no comma and coordinating conjunction there. Okay, let's look at the first part. Everything is funny. That could be a sentence, right? So we're going to put an I over on the side. I. Where's your verb? Is. And your subject is everything. All right, let's look at the clause. As long as it's happening to somebody else. Okay, so that's a dependent clause. So we're going to put plus D over there on in front of number 2, I plus D. So if you have an independent clause and a dependent clause, one independent clause and one dependent clause, what kind of sentence is it? Complex. Good. So you're going to put I plus D equals CX. Excuse me. All right, let's look at the clause. Where is your subject? It's. And what's your verb? Happening. Okay, so happening underlined twice, it's underlined once. So now you see that you have, this one is a complex sentence. All right, now I want you to do numbers 3 through 10 by yourself. It'll take a while, but try to do the best you can. I would go ahead and look for those clauses first. That helps you to see if you have dependent clauses in the sentence. Also look for those semicolons or commas and conjunctions. That's a big clue as to what you have. So I'd like for you to do numbers 3 through 10 and then pause this video. When you get done, I'll go over the answers for you. But please try to do this on your own. Try to do this on your own. Don't just wait for me to give you the answers. Okay? 3 through 10. Okay. You feel like your brain's a little fuzzy right now? I know I did when I was doing them. All right. So let's look at number 3. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. All right. Let's take a look at this. Do you see a comma and a coordinating conjunction? Yes. So we want to box that comma and coordinating conjunction and. Okay. So now let's look. Let's look at what we have left. Some are born great. Is that a sentence? Yes. Independent. Some achieve greatness. That's a sentence as well. Some have greatness thrust upon them. Another sentence. So our formula is I plus I plus I equals compound. Okay. And your verb, first one, are born, subject some. Second one, achieve, subject some. Third one, have, subject some. All right, look at number 4. Honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom. Do you see any commas or conjunctions or semicolons? No, so nothing to box there. There's no clause in this sentence. It is simply a simple sentence. Honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom. Your verb is, your subject is honesty, and your formula is I equals S. Independent equals simple. All right, number 5. The Bible will keep you from sin, or sin will keep you from the Bible. We have a comma and the word or, so those should be in a box, okay? So we've got the Bible will keep you from sin, sin will keep you from the Bible. 2 independent clauses joined by a conjunction, comma, and a coordinating conjunction. So that's the formula is going to be I for independent plus I for independent equals compound, CD. I plus I equals compound, CD. All right, so let's look at the subjects and verbs. Will keep is your verb, Bible is your subject, will keep is your verb, sin is your subject. Number 6, within the covers of the Bible are the answers for all the problems men face. All right, let's look at this. Within the covers of the Bible are the answers. And you've got another clause for all the problems men face. So you have within the covers of the Bible are all the answers. That's an independent clause. For all the problems men face is a dependent clause. So our formula is I plus D equals, what's an independent and a dependent? Complex. So it would be I plus D equals CX. And your verbs are, and the subject is answers. Your subject is at the end of that, that independent phrase. Answers are. All right, and then the next one, you've got for all the problems men face, and men is your subject and face is your verb. All right, look at the next one. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools speak because they have something to say. All right, so let's look. Oh, I see a semicolon. So we're going to box that. All right, that tells us we've got 2 sentences. All right, so let's look at the first sentence. Wise men speak because they have something to say. That's a sentence, but there's also a clause in it. Because they have something to say should be in brackets. All right, so let's look at the first part. Wise men speak. That's a sentence, right? So that's an independent clause. We've got speak is your verb, men is your subject. All right. Then we have a dependent clause because they have something to say. So have is your verb and they is your subject. So now we've got I plus D. What's the next one? Fools speak. Short, but it is a sentence. That's an independent clause. So now we've got another I. And then because they have something to say, that's a dependent clause. So you've got I plus D plus I plus D equals compound complex, CDCX, okay? So that's going to be your formula. I know what I did was I just put an I above the independent clauses and a D above the independent or below the dependent clauses, and that kind of helped me to go back and look at my formula. All right, speak is your verb, men is your subject, have is your verb, they is your subject, speak is your verb, fools is your subject, have is your verb, they is your subject. All right, let's look at exercise 8. If we ever forget that we are one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under. Oh, that was by Ronald Reagan. All right, so let's look at what we've got here. If we ever forget that we are one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under. Okay, well, let's look at what the clauses are. If we ever forget that we are one nation under God is a dependent clause. Then we've got another one inside of it. If we ever forget is also a dependent clause. Okay, so then we've got, then we will be a nation gone under. So we've got dependent plus dependent, so D plus D, and then we've got, then we will be a nation gone under. That's an independent one. So we've got D plus I, that's a complex sentence, okay? As long as it has one independent clause, it can have more than one dependent clause and still be complex. All right, so let's look at our subjects and verbs. We've got forget is your verb, we is your subject, are is your verb, we is your subject, will is your verb, will be is your verb, we is your subject. Okay, number 9. With a new day comes new strength and new thoughts. All right, I don't see any commas or coordinating conjunctions. I don't see any semicolons. I don't even see any clauses. I just see with a new day comes new strength and new thoughts. That's an independent clause. So you've got comes is your verb, strength and thoughts are your subjects. You've got a compound subject, but this is just one independent clause. So that makes it a what? A simple sentence. All right, look at the next one. Number 10, a thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than a college education. All right, I don't see any coordinating conjunctions, commas, semicolons, but I do see a clause, than a college education, than a college education. All right, so I see is your verb, knowledge is, and then education is. So this is just a simple sentence, okay? I'm sorry. It is an independent clause. A thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than a college education. That's an independent clause, but there is a dependent clause in there. So this is it is complex. So the formula is going to be I plus D equals CX. I plus D equals CX. Okay? All right, let's see what else we had to do today. We're doing exercise B. Exercise B. So let's look at that. Identify each sentence as simple, compound, complex, or compound complex. All right, look at this one. I fear God, and next to God, I chiefly fear him who fears him not. I fear God. That's a sentence. And next to God, I chiefly fear him who fears him not. Okay? Next to God, you got a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Next to God, I chiefly fear him who fears him not. Okay, that's an independent clause there. So we've got two independent clauses, but I also see a clause there. Who fears him not? So this is two independent clauses plus a dependent clause. That makes it what? Compound complex. Compound complex. All right, look at the next one. Trust but verify. Trust but verify. All right, there's a comma and a coordinating conjunction. This one's a little bit tricky because trust is your verb. What's your subject? Understood you. So it'd be you trust, but same thing. Verify is a verb, you verify. So even though this is a very short sentence, it's got two understood subjects, understood yous. So this is actually a compound sentence. You trust, but you verify. So that's compound. So don't let the length of it kind of fool you. All right, look at the next one. Patience and perseverance have a magical effect before which difficulties disappear and obstacles vanish. All right, do you see a comma or coordinating conjunction? No, but I do see a conjunction before, and then I see which difficulties disappear and obstacles vanish. So which difficulties disappear and obstacles vanish is a clause, and patience and perseverance have a magical effect is a sentence. So we've got a sentence and a clause, which is going to make it complex. Good. Number 4, great works are performed not by strength, but by perseverance. Okay? No commas and conjunctions, no semicolons. I don't see any clauses. Great works are performed not by strength, but by perseverance. That's a simple sentence, y'all. All right, and then number 5, a friend is what the heart needs all the time. A friend is what the heart needs all the time. I see what the heart needs and then I've got a friend is all the time. A friend is what the heart needs all the time. That's a simple, a independent clause, but it's got what the heart needs there inside that independent clause. So that makes it complex. Complex. Very good. Okay. Let me look. We have a very long lesson today. I want you to look at page 247. On page 247, you're going to be looking at a personal narrative. Now, we haven't written anything in a while, and so we're going to do some writing. We're going to write a personal narrative. So I want you to look. It says on your lesson plans to read 247 through 250. And you're going to look at the example of this narrative, and then you're going to write it. So let's see what a personal narrative is. A personal narrative is a story that relates a point or expresses a certain message through details or specific events. One might use a personal narrative when giving one's testimony of salvation, relating a story or an incident, or even writing letters. The narrative should be developed with descriptions of events that could include dialogue. However, it needs to explain the relationship of the events to the reader. Because of the personal nature of these narratives, an informal writing style is often adopted. To write a successful narrative, follow these steps below. Okay, so here's what we're doing. You're going to write a narrative. And you can do it. Y'all, we've had so many things happen in the last month in our homes, and you might write about something that's going on or something that happened while you were at home. You might write about conversations that you've had with siblings or family members, or something that you've done. So let's take a look at this. You're going to plan. We always know we plan first. So you think about the experience or event. It can be someone else's experience, such as a Bible story that has had an effect on your life. The event can be a personal experience that's had an effect on your life, a truth you learned, a regret, a positive character trait, or a change in attitude towards a person, place, or thing. I want y'all to put a star by this letter B because this gives you some really good ideas, okay? Maybe there's somebody that in your life has been a positive, had an effect on you, either positively or negatively, or something that you learned through your relationships with other people. Did you learn something about how to get along, forgiveness, what a true friend is, um, any kind of those types of things, how you learned to be honest. Maybe you told a lie at some time and you saw what happened through that. You might want to write about that. Or maybe you felt one way about somebody, but through some experiences that you had with them, you changed your mind and realized either they were really better person than you thought, or maybe they weren't such a great influence on you. But we're going to write this narrative. So then we always make a list of ideas. We do that first. So what happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? How did the event change you or your perspective? And then you're going to cross out any unrelated things. You're going to write a thesis about it. Now, your thesis is just going to tell us that maybe you want to start it out and you want to say, I never realized that this would happen to me, or I never realized how getting to know someone could change your mind about them. Or you might think about something that you did. Being stuck at home for a long period of time has helped us to be more creative and given us a closer bond. And you might want to write about how that happened. Anything. I mean, the sky's the limit. Y'all know how your imaginations go and your experiences go. So you write whatever you want to, but make it a personal narrative. All right. So we see here, busy Saturday, broken light bulb, trying to fix things for church, pastor, police came, woman had bad news, prayed with the woman, light bulbs were on sale, good testimony. So they crossed out things that they were not going to write about. Then C, you make a list of the characters that could be in your story and what were they like. Why is this character important to the lesson, and how do the characters relate to each other? Your story may not involve any characters at all, okay? Pastor, a crying woman, police, crowds. Then you're going to write a thesis. Here's a thesis. This will summarize the main idea or the lesson. This is kind of like when we talked about the themes in a story. If a writer was just going to say, hey, be kind to others, people aren't going to listen to that. But if he writes a story about how we learn to be kind to people, that kind of gets it across in a more interesting way. So that's what we're looking for in your thesis. So here's a sample. God's plans were bigger and better than mine. Okay. Ever think that we had everything all planned out and then God had another purpose? All right. So you're going to make an outline, use your thesis. The points need to be in chronological order from beginning to end. Then you're going to write the first narrative. And remember, you're going to skip lines when you write the first of your narrative. The introduction's at the beginning of the paper. You're going to grab your reader's attention, and then the body should follow your outline. When writing the body, be sure that every detail of your story supports your thesis and is written in what? Chronological order. Instead of telling the reader about the characters and events, show the details by using descriptive nouns and verbs. Begin a new paragraph when a new character speaks. Please put a big star by that. Or when the setting changes or the action moves locations. Remember to use transitions to help guide the reader through time, places, and events in your story. Use first person. I, me, mine. Okay? Us, ours. If the narrative is about you, and then use third person, he, him, his, she, her, hers, they, them, theirs, if the narrative is about someone else. And then you conclude have a concluding paragraph. Begin the conclusion with a reworded thesis statement. You're not simply restating your thesis, and emphasize the main points in your story, but don't add any new information. Then we're going to evaluate it and rewrite it. I like to do the evaluation and the edit on the rough draft. I don't think you should have to write it 3 times, and then you're going to write your final draft. Okay, so here's an example of a narrative. So I want you to read page 249 and 250. That gives you the example of what a narrative is like, and then you are to start your narrative. Exercise A. Choose an event and make a list of ideas and create an outline for your personal narrative. That's what I want you to do today for your assignment. So I want you to think about it, make your list, make your outline, and then tomorrow we will write the first draft of your outline, okay? Remember, if you have people and there's dialogue, we put that dialogue in quotations, and every time you change speakers, you indent and make a new paragraph. All right, I'll be back tomorrow. I hope you have a great day. Keep reading in the Boy in Striped Pajamas. If you want to read with me, go to the next video. Have a great Thursday.